Welcome to the Oddsbreakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 103 of 2024. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at The Oddsbreakers. Follow us on social media / The Oddsbreakers. This episode is being brought to you by MyBookie.ag. For an up to $1,000 bonus, please visit this podcast description. Click the link, terms, conditions, location apply. If you'd like to support the Oddsbreakers and become a premium member, please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. Pick any. For winning cappers, get the premium place before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. And if nothing else, please visit the Oddsbreakers and become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. Another crazy weekend behind us, my friends. Not so great for me from a betting perspective. Line value's been awesome, but unfortunately, that doesn't always go your way. You know, starting with Thursday Night Football, that was some very, very good entertainment there. The Lions and the Packers are legit teams with legit coaches. Two great coach teams and lots of offense. The Lions have been so injured on defense. They're giving up a lot of yards. They outgained the Packers by a good amount, but had a pretty bad turnover in their side of the field, which gave Packers a pretty simple touchdown. The third quarter really flipped the script on that game, and the Packers were leading. And then at the end of the game, it was just really who had the ball last that won, and that was the Lions. They played it perfectly, and just shows that Dan Campbell has gotten better as a coach, and maybe there's some other guys there helping out as well. But, man, that's that shows maturity right there, and something you can kind of believe in when it comes to the postseason. So Saturday, obviously the big conference championships. I mean, let's face it, they're more of a show, a TV show. Brad Powers calls that all the time. I think he's right. I made some mistakes by betting against what they needed to happen. I think the ACC played their hand very well, and there was some certain obvious shenanigans going on in that game, but it worked out great for them because they get two teams in the college football playoffs. You know, great for them. Georgia ended up winning their game on a backup quarterback. That was a tough one as well. That was a great home field advantage for Georgia being in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and that worked out really well for them. But we don't know if Carson Beck's done or not. I assume he's done, but until they release that result, we might not even know. And now they shouldn't have to worry about it because the seeding's done. It's not like what happened to Florida State, right? Which was extremely brutal. And that's maybe part of the reason why Alabama's not in again, because they jumped Florida State last year. And even though they're a top 10 team in power, they are not a top 10 team in deserving with those really nasty losses. High floor, high ceiling, low floor is what we've been calling Alabama for a long time. Now I'm hearing everybody else say it. But that's just the situation here. And I think got to give props to the committee. They did some really good things. They did some dumb things too, but some good things, And the dumbest thing is clearly having Ohio State with Oregon in the bracket. Why the hell would you do that? If you look at any Vegas power rating, it's our Oregon and Ohio State really up on top of that. Some people, a couple have Notre Dame up there, but I don't disagree. I have it Oregon, Ohio State first and foremost. I cannot believe they did that. And that means Oregon has to play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, I believe. So that was absolutely terrible. It's like, seriously, you're just going to kick the Big Ten out of this thing? Having them on opposite sides is what they should have done. A massive punishment to Oregon. I don't feel bad for Ohio State for those two losses. The Oregon one, bad clock management at the end. The Michigan one, just absolutely despicable job for Ryan Day. And Michigan got better. Teams are allowed to get better. But either way, just a absolute abortion of a game to have to go through. after you go against Tennessee, you got to go face Oregon, and Oregon's got to face you. That's another problem. But what they really did right was put SMU in, and the ACC, like I said, set that up that way. And what else they got right was putting ASU as the 4th seed, the bye, over Clemson and SMU. That was absolutely the right move. Huge congrats to the committee for at least getting the top 4 right. Now, unfortunately, my top 4 would be different if Notre Dame was allowed to be in the top 4. I think Notre Dame should be the 2nd or 3rd seed. I even say the 2nd seed, but that's not allowed, And I didn't clarify that when I tweeted it. I actually completely forgot about that on early Sunday morning. But, that's the college football, and we have some bowls to talk about, obviously, coming up throughout the weeks, including next week's show. We're going to probably really get into these bowl games quickly. I think that's important. I think on Monday we'll start talking about the bowl games for the upcoming week, because the bowls really start on the 16th. And there's obviously a FCS bowl on Saturday with the Army-Navy game. I'm not really too into that, though. I'm more into the FBS ones. But wait a minute. I think Western Michigan starts playing South Alabama. So we'll be covering that this week for sure. And then the rest of the bowls kind of come up through December 17th, the 18th, the 19th, the 20th. They just kind of go boom, boom, boom. And these odds are just coming out as we speak here on these big games. So NFL Sunday was tough for me. I had some tough beats, especially. I'm going to rephrase that. I had some bad bets. The Eagles, I said, was a kind of a flat spot. I was a little concerned about it, but I still think the spread was low. Took the minus 12. Great line value. Closed at minus 14. Man, they barely even showed up that game against Carolina, and Carolina brought full force. That was tough, and the Eagles actually almost lost the game. I was like, Jesus. Jalen Hurts was off for 3 quarters. He looked terrible for 3 quarters, and then finally in the 4th quarter, he actually looked competent, let's say. Well, Bryce Young's looking great. And Bryce Young, man, he's just kind of that likable guy. He smiles at the refs. He's like, okay, he listens and says yes to them, and just looks like such a nice dude. And I think that's working for him, Also very well coached with Dave Canales. He's not putting Bryce Young into trouble. He's quick rollouts, quick passes, screens. Not like the crap the Bears are doing with Caleb Williams, and we'll get to the Bears plenty. Also, crazy Bills-Rams game. What a fantasy football type game that was for your league if you had some of those players, man. There was just a ton of points, over 80-some points in that game scored. Bad officiating in it, though. There was the Rams got a free pass interference, and they pick up the flag. It's like you clearly chipped the guy, and then you pick the flag up. What? That was really rough. And also the offsides that should have been called, and they didn't for some reason. It was just very, very strange. But either way, there's nothing you can do about it now. Raiders at Buccaneers was interesting for a while. Then the Buccaneers stepped on the gas and covered. Saints actually almost lost to the Giants. Almost tied to the Giants, and we'll see what would happen in overtime. We hit a nice parlay. The parlays and the teaser save us once again. Our refuse to lose teaser is 10-4 now. So we've been doing well in that department. Hit another parlay in the NFL, just a money line parlay, playing at like plus 105 or something like that. That was awesome. So that's good. The only real side I hit without a bad bet or situation was the when I pulled away from the contest. I pushed on Miami, but I took out the Chargers. I wanted to play the Chargers in the contest. A lot of Chiefs money came in. I was a little worried, and some respectable people were on the Chiefs. And I decided to switch it out, and it was bad because they were bad. And then my Bears bet was horrible. I had massive line value on that, plus 5.5 down to plus 3. But the Bears just bared. I mean, massively outcoached. What they're doing with Caleb Williams is absolutely – it's not even – thinking about football. It's just like, let's just put you in a 7-step drop and do some long, deep passes all day in the first quarter. It's like, dude, that is not going to work for you against anybody these days. You know, Thomas Brown. He's not the man. He's not. He's not the answer in Chicago. He's got a lot to learn. Derek Carr got injured. Pretty bad left hand injury. At least it's his left hand, but he's going to miss some time. That line went to 7.5 pretty quick. The Vikings showed everybody why they got rid of Kirk Cousins and didn't resign him. That was just Kirk Cousins throwing picks again, and tough environment. But I will say that, man, O'Connell over there on the Vikings should be maybe coach of the year. I mean, after what he's done with this team and with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not a good quarterback, but when you put them with a good coach, great things can happen. And that's exactly why the top quarterbacks, they're like, you feel like you can't miss, exit early in the NFL because they get a coach like Eberflus or somebody, right? Completely ruins their confidence and they're completely spoiled for the future. Constantly happens, but, who would have saw Sam Darnold looking this great? Well, people that know good coaches. And I was a little bit unsure in O'Connell. Man, what he did this year is convinced me that he is throw him in the good coach category. Titans Jaguars, I had a terrible over bet on that. I kicked myself at halftime when it was 3-0. Why I bet the over on these teams. These are just incompetent teams. And what do I always say? Take the points when it's two bad teams playing each other. I stayed off the game completely, thank God. But I was certainly getting closer and closer to thinking about betting the Titans when it went down to -3. But thank God I didn't. What a mess of a game that ended up being. And then finally, the Chargers-Chiefs was a typical Chiefs game at the end. The Chargers down 13-0 at half. Harbaugh makes great halftime adjustments, just like Reed would if he was down, I guess. And all of a sudden they're winning, and then clock happens, penalties happen against the other team. There's just a lot of things that happen. I would never want the Chiefs with the skill of Pat Mahomes to have the ball at the end of the game, but that's how it is. And that's why Buffalo did the perfect job when it was 4th and 4 and Josh Allen ran and got it for that touchdown, went up 9. That's the only way you're beating the Chiefs. If Mahomes got the ball and it's 8 points or less, they're going to win it. That's just the Chiefs. They don't care about winning by margin. Every time there's a team dogs to the Chiefs by 3.5 or more, you seriously have to look at that. You have to look at that. I think these Chiefs just are great with finishing their games out. It's not like Mahomes has regressed that much. Maybe he has. I think it's just receivers are just not quite on board like back in the Tyreek Hill days. Kelsey's not as good. But at the end of the game, Mahomes is the best quarterback right now. Best quarterback and possibly going to be the best of all time. It's still Tom Brady for me. But, man, is he going to be making a case here soon over the next few years. The good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. Plenty to go around. That Packers-Lions game was definitely on the good side. It was fun to watch. Great event. Even though I didn't hit my TikTok prop, I hit the premium play on it because the line moved and it middled in it. So I liked Jacobs over 65.5 rushing yards. By the time I did it on TikTok, it was 70, and Jacobs finished with 66. It's just because the Lions played keep away, like I mentioned earlier. The committee keeping Alabama out and putting ASU in the top 4. That was very, very good. Bravo, committee. Way to not show your bias. Now you certainly set Georgia up pretty well in the college football playoff bracket. Not only do they get the winner of Indiana Notre Dame, they play the winner of most likely Boise State Penn State. So it's pretty good for Georgia to make it to the final game. Oh, there you have it. I think if I was going to say a most likely team in the first round to upset someone offhand right now, I would say SMU. They have some offense that could mess up Penn State a little bit. Plus, they're probably kind of a little pissed about the officiating that they got in their game. But SMU, I don't think Tennessee's going to do it. I'm thinking about laying it with Ohio State. Clemson, No chance. Indiana, maybe, probably not. This is interesting. It's an in-state rivalry here during the first round of the playoffs, but I think Notre Dame's just got too much firepower against this Indiana team. But Indiana could keep it close. I just wonder about their quarterback here, Rourke. In this situation, he's just never been a real big game quarterback, but he's been a very good quarterback when he was in the MAC. I'm going to go with the next, and that's our ASU future of 3.8 to 1. We hedged it, so it became 2.8 to 1, so I was really happy about that. Another good, we have bowl games. That's right, baby, bowl games. Can't wait to write up on every single bowl game like we did last year. We're going to talk about every single bowl game, handicap every single bowl game. Careful with betting the big names. They're going to have some holdouts. Look at that draft board to see who might be holding out here for the draft. Or possibly the portal even. So people are doing that as well. How about Army, Ohio, in Ohio kicking ass? We were on the right side with Ohio. Tulane would think I was our lowest bet. But, man, Ohio and Army just taking it to people. And it helped me win my Survivor in college football. Marshall also kicked some massive ass. They were the biggest dog of the weekend, unless you're not including Jackson State in the FCS. That was a great job by Marshall, and I took a personal outline -4.5 at plus 260, and then we hit that as well. So that was fun. Louisiana actually lost their quarterback also, and it was down to their third string now in that game. Georgia's defense was great, even though the game wasn't going well for Texas, officiating-wise. It was Georgia's defense that did it, and Texas. Georgia's defense great against a pocket passer. They are not good against a dual threat. So be careful when it comes to dual threats. I think a guy like Notre Dame and in Riley Leonard would give him some problems. So the next I have is the Panthers, Carolina Panthers. They're improved. They're not the worst team in the NFL. Even though my power ratings aren't quite there yet, I think they could beat the Bears now if they played next week. I think that they actually have some life in them. I mean, it's nice to have low expectations, and you can kind of keep trying throughout the year. That's the Panthers, and maybe they keep Bryce Young and build around him. That's what I think you should do, because I think any quarterback can work with a good coach. Why get a great quarterback who's going to fail with a bad coach when you can just have a decent prospect work with a great coach and build around that team, build up the trenches. The Rams offense, what the hell is that? Man, I struggle on these Rams games. And it was a terrible spot for Buffalo, and I should not have bet Buffalo. But, obviously they get that touchdown, they go up 4. It was just a bad spot for Buffalo. But, man, this Rams offense, they're hard to figure out because I feel like Matt Stafford is so, veteran-y that he just kind of takes off sometimes, and sometimes he's serious. It's just the swings in this team, the variance in this team seems to be so high with the Rams. The ACC, the ACC played that to a T, and the way they fixed this was to get in 2 teams, and they did exactly right. They did it exactly by the book, perfect. That was absolutely amazing how they set that up and got through with it and getting 2 teams into the college football playoffs while the Big 12 only has 1. What a gangster move from Jim Phillips. I still don't think it saves their conference, though. So bad. Now, UNLV in the red zone. Why are they just so bad at scoring touchdowns there? What good are you if you cannot score in the red zone? That's really what it was, and that's how they lost 21-17 or 21-7 from Boise State. A little bit of a misleading final score there, but Jesus, man, it was also Boise State's red zone defense. You got to give them credit too. Jacksonville State, that last TD pushed them over, and that pissed me off. But here's the thing. It's not a bad beat because their field goal would have taken it from 57 to 60 anyway. But that Western Kentucky defense was absolutely freaking brutal. But the way that Jacksonville State and Rich Rodriguez, 4th and 7, just had to score another touchdown was a big FU to Western Kentucky. It's probably from that last game where they led them there. It's almost like they suckered them in and then said, all right, here's our real team. Big props to Rich Rodriguez. If I'm West Virginia, that's who I'm hiring. Bring him back. SMU tackling. They had some bad tackling that game, and that's why a part of the reason Clemson was at least up that game. So they got to figure out how to tackle. Iowa State's turnovers. Oh, man. Our ASU bet was a no sweat because, I mean, Iowa State gave them the turnovers to win that game, and they couldn't even get back in the game because they kept turning it over. It was absolutely crazy how bad that worked out for the Clones. And, man, you also got to throw in Matt Campbell. He is a terrible big game coach. Carson Beck's injury, that elbow injury, really nasty injury. Then the dual threat Stockton comes in and does pretty good. It was really Georgia's defense that won the game, but I guess he did enough to push it in overtime, didn't he? With a few assists. The Eagles taking the week off, that was kind of bad, especially for my bet. So screw you, Philadelphia Eagles, and my line value that is down the toilet. Arizona Cardinals losing streak. Now they're on a 3-game losing streak. What the hell, Cardinals? I was trying to hit both sides of that. I had that Seattle in the teaser and the Cardinals at like -2 or something like that, 2.5. I think it closed at -3. And more line value down the tubes, man. They threw a couple picks early and just could never catch Seattle. Seattle's a much improved team now. The Jets versus the Jaguars next week. Oh, is that bad? Oh, man. 2, 3, and 10 teams. Oh, God, that is absolutely gross. All right, now for the ugly. The whole first half of the SEC championship, the refs made sure Georgia was in that game. And if you didn't see that, then you don't know football. But that's how these are. They are now a TV show, a little bit of WWE style. And then Clemson, they did everything they could by not throwing a penalty on Clemson the whole freaking game.
Unreal.
I mean, the whole game. Not one flag against a good team like SMU. Like you're playing perfect football. They needed that, and that's what they needed to win that game. And it worked out perfectly because that's how it was set up for Clemson to win. Let's just say, even if SMU was out, the ACC prefers Clemson, the bigger name school, not the new guy coming in, SMU. They didn't want SMU in there more than Clemson. It's great that they got both, but that worked out perfect. Overtime loss for SMU. That's exactly what the ACC wanted, and that's what the refs did. It's not like you're going to see an email or something anywhere that explained for them to do that, but they know exactly how to work next year, and that's exactly what happened. There is no other explanation whatsoever, and I have the balls to say that. Next, you have the Browns field goal kicker, Dustin Hopkins. Oh, my God. I mean, missing those 2 field goals, and it's not like the Browns didn't get blowout, but I think that kind of crushed the team a little bit, and they kind of mailed it in maybe in the fourth quarter. Now, you cannot miss those field goals, Hopkins, and what a terrible signing that was that in the offseason for the Browns. My survivor that I won, I shared this with 298 people, $100,000. It was only a $100 buy-in, and I won $338. It's like, ooh, yay. I mean, I wish that I was one of 50 so I get a couple grand, but it was just too easy. And to be honest with you, it wasn't that hard. But I still had to stay off some losers because less than a third of us won. But no, you probably should just limit the spreads at 14.5 or something for these survivors here in these situations. So that's funny. The targeting call on ASU was absolute, complete, and utter bullshit. And it's because they felt sorry for Iowa State, and his head was up. Now the kid's going to miss the first half of the playoff game. I hope that gets reviewed somewhere, and he gets to appeal that. But that was not targeting. Just nobody blocked him, and he had to get to the quarterback fast. His helmet was up when he hit him. He hit him low enough, it just kind of slid up a little bit. I mean, the other guy got up too. Iowa State's quarterback backed. And that was just absolute ugly. And next we have the Bills defense. Couldn't stop a thing that whole game. Oh, my God, Bills. That was a complete flat spot for you. You didn't even want to play a team that tried that day. And the worst thing clearly in the whole freaking NFL was the Bears' total of 4 freaking yards and 1 first down in the first half to the San Francisco 49ers, who had 319 yards. 319 in the first half to the Bears. Some teams don't even get 319 the whole game. You can't say that the Bears have just a bad offense. They have a bad team. And it all filters up upstairs to the fool in charge in George McCaskey.
Your mother is better not to talk about!
All right, now it's time for a little college football conference championship, week 15, misleading final scores. And Army only outgained Tulane 352 to 324, yet 135 to 14, a 2-0 turnover ratio and terrible red zone for the Green Wave. Got the Green Wave. Boise State only outgained UNLV 373 to 327, yet 121 to 7, a 1-0 turnover ratio and terrible red zone. Got the Rebels. Boise State also only had 1 penalty at home. That's kind of cushy as well. Texas outgained Georgia 389 to 277. That's a massive difference. 389 to 287, yet lost 22 to 19 in overtime. A 3-2 turnover ratio, 11 penalties, bad red zone, and bias officiating got the Longhorns. But what was even worse, from the optics perspective, was SMU outgaining Clemson 458 to 326. Yet lost 34 to 31 in overtime. A 2-0 turnover ratio and terrible officiating got the stings. Great for the ACC though. Also bad for me for betting on these two teams, Texas and SMU. Even when we had plus money, I should have bought back completely just knowing that this was a situation for a setup. Penn State outgained Oregon 518 to 466, yet lost 45 to 37. A rough 2-0 turnover ratio got the Nittany Lions. All right. College football betting spots does not exist anymore because we have bowl games. So we're going to talk about bowl games. There's some great articles about coaching ATS that's coming out. Reed Wallach has one from Fansided, so I'm waiting for his. We're going to be looking at opt-outs and things like that. I've already made some plays. I'm going to give you one in a minute. But moving to the NFL, Week 14, misleading final scores. The Lions outgained the Packers 391 to 298, yet only won 34 to 31. Should have been more like 7 points. Equal turnovers, but one really bad one for the Lions, and bad red zone got the Lions that game. The Browns outgained the Steelers 300 to 267, yet lost 27 to 14. A 3-1 turnover ratio and bad special teams hurt the Browns. The Panthers outgained the Eagles 302 to 292, yet lost 22 to 16. They almost won that game. There's a $3 million bet on the Eagles, too. It's like on the money line. Who the hell made that? 1-0 turnover ratio and bad field position made it rough. They almost won the game, like I said. The Falcons outgained the Vikings 496 to 433, yet lost 42 to 21. 21-point difference there. A bad 3-0 turnover ratio from you-know-who, Kirk Cousins, and very poor red zone shot down the Birds.
You like that? You like that?
The Jets outgained the Dolphins 402 to 375, yet lost in OT 32 to 26. Equal turnovers at 0, but 10 penalties and bad overtime. A bad overtime rule got the Jets because they never got the ball in overtime. Just another one of those issues. Hate to say it, I don't love college football's overtime rules, but it's better than the NFL's. NFL Week 15 betting spots, letdown spots. The Seahawks could flatten out hosting Green Bay after leading the division. That's really the only letdown spot I got. There's a lot of, competing and get up spots. The Packers need to get up at Seattle after the Lions lost. The Vikings might not take. Actually, this is more of a look ahead spot. The Bills need to get up to win at the Lions after a rough loss in LA. So that's definitely one. The Falcons need a slump buster as well in Las Vegas. So we'll see if O'Connell plays. He has a bad bone bruise on his knee, but he could play. Look ahead spots. The Vikings could look past the Bears. That's what I was trying to say too. The Seahawks, very possible. Why would you take the Bears seriously? Why would you take anyone seriously? The short rest. The Cowboys after Monday night at the Panthers. The Bengals after Monday night at the Titans. And the long rest is the Lions after Thursday night hosting the Bills. That's going to be the game of the week. The Packers after Thursday night at the Seahawks. The Ravens after the bye at the New York Giants. The Texans after the bye hosting the Dolphins. The Patriots after the bye at the Cardinals. And the Commanders after the bye at the Saints. There's your long rest spots. Now, it's time for our college football free play, baby. We are going to the playoffs. This is simple to me. Clemson versus Texas under 52.5. You know, Clemson really didn't have to put up a lot of yards against SMU, and they really aren't that good of a team, especially on offense. Their defense kind of can hang a little bit, but Texas, man, Quinn Ewers, something's wrong there. He looked like he had a freaking walking boot on. He was so taped up during that game, and maybe he's going to be better in about a week and a half here on December 21st, but lots to go here for him to be completely healthy. I think this Texas defense is fantastic, and it's the thing that's really keeping them in these games, and under 52 is what I'm giving out right now. I see some 52s. It's coming down, though. I'm guessing this is going to drop below 52, so I want to give it to you right now. At Clemson and Texas, I do not see a lot of points under 52 for 2.5 stars. And by the way, Clemson. Yes, I try. All right, now it's time for a little fantasy football playoffs, week 15, with our guy, D Nasty. Fantasy football doesn't stop, baby. Here we are. It's the playoffs, week 15. D Nasty's back. Dave, how you doing, man?
Doing awesome, man. I got my boy Josh Allen's jersey on. He's a manimal, part man, part animal. 6 TDs. He brought single-handedly brought me wins in a few of my leagues this week. Hopefully, none of you guys out there in Fantasyland were playing him this week because he just crushed it this week.
MVP. That's what he is. Yeah, I got the Bills Stadium behind me because I jumped off the Bears and I switched to the Bills. I'm rooting for the Bills now this year. Yeah, baby. Packers had a tough loss on Thursday, but it was an okay loss. Just that they couldn't get the ball back. Dan Campbell ran the clock out on him. It's what he's supposed to do. It's just one of those. But
yeah, it was a ballsy move by Dan Campbell, but I got to give it to him. That was the right move, though. So couldn't get the ball back. So
it's
a good move on his part.
It was. Do not let people get the ball back. It's kind of become a game of keep away. So it's just the way it is now in the NFL. But here we are. We have a big week, Dave, and no more buys, right?
No more buys this week, and that's playoff time, baby.
It's playoffs, and we have some injuries, unfortunately. Every week we have injuries. It's the NFL. Wouldn't be the NFL without injuries. Dave, why don't you break down some of these injuries?
Yeah, a couple of starting quarterbacks, actually, with some gruesome injuries, unfortunately. First one was going to be Derek Carr. He's out for the rest of the year. He broke his left arm, they're saying, so he's probably out for the rest of the year.
They said he's going to be back, possibly. He's avoiding IR. I thought it was his hand, wasn't it?
Broken left hand, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I
so
guess.
It's not throwing hand, which is good.
But he could be out because here's the thing. If they're not in the playoffs, which they're possibly going to drop out, especially after this week, they're going to play their 2 young quarterbacks to see who makes the team for next year is what I think. So it's very possible.
Yeah, definitely. And then some other guys that were injured here this week as well. You got Jonathan Brooks, who unfortunately, the young rookie who was looking good, tore his same ACL again in his knee, so he's out for the rest of the year. Raheem Blackshear, the other backup for Chuba Hubbard, he's out with a chest injury, and he could possibly be out for several weeks. So another bad injury for him. And then Aiden O'Connell, he was ruled out after being carted off the field with a leg injury, his knee, so he might be out the rest of the year as well. But they haven't really said anything more on that, though, so hopefully they'll give an update. He was going for an MRI today. So at least this week for sure he's going to be out, maybe longer. I'm thinking probably the rest of the year. So we'll talk about who to replace him with this week. Tight end Will Dissly suffered a shoulder injury. Justin Herbert suffered a leg contusion. He was limping around in that game last night. Another lucky Chiefs win, too, by the way, last night. And then a couple other smaller injuries then, too. We had Isaiah Garendo, who filling in for McCaffrey and for Jordan Mason.
He was having a great game. A great game.
Yeah, he's having a great game. He got injured, foot injury. They're saying they're not saying how long he's going to be out for. He did not return the other night though, so it could be that he could be out at least this week, if not more. So
he plays Thursday too, Dave. He plays on Thursday, so it's really scary. I mean, what's so terrible is we talked about how he's the top waiver wire pickup last week. Funny, he played on the Badgers, which is crazy, right? He wasn't even like the starter for the Badgers, and he was
no, he was like a third string.
No, it's kind of like with James White, kind of like that same situation. How he thrived on the Patriots for a while. He's a gritty workhorse, and he's very possibly out. So good call on that.
Yeah, and that's all I had. Did you have any other ones that I
did you mention Bucky Irving? Did you mention Bucky Irving?
Oh no, Bucky Irving with the back injury. Yes, I didn't mention that one. Yeah, that one actually. I keep an eye on that. Hopefully he's week to week right now, but they didn't really say anything about that. He didn't return, but they were up pretty good in that pretty well in that game, so they didn't really need to come back in. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well because he could be a stud down the stretch here if he is healthy.
Yeah, the Will Dissly injury sucked for me last week because I had his prop over and he started out really well and got hurt right away. So there it is against the Chiefs. The Chiefs just find ways to win. If you're not winning by 9 points against the Chiefs, you're probably going to lose because they're going to get the ball, and that's what great coaches. They'll get the 4th and 5. It don't matter. They'll get the 4th and 5. It's going to be 4th and 4, 4th and 6, 4th and 5. They're getting it. It's automatic for a good team like them. And that's why I love how the Bills finished them off by doing it themselves at 4th and 4, and then going up by 9 points. That's how you kill the Chiefs. That's the way.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, let's get to you did a great job there. I have no other ones. Waiver wire. Rashad White, I guess in some of these leagues, 10-team leagues, maybe a 12-team, he might have been dropped. So I'd look for Rashad White because Bucky Irving could be out. Quarterback Desmond Ridder. If you need him to stream, he would probably be starting this week, is my opinion. But I know O'Connell's not going to get on the injury reserve, and we thought it was a worse injury than it was. It was a bone bruise on his knee, so O'Connell might play too. I'm assuming it's Jake Haener after Carr, right? I would assume that because
that's what they're saying right now. Jake Haener, they said, is going to be the backup or the replacement for Carr right now.
Yeah, and Carr should just be put, like you said, probably shut down and see who Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener makes the team for next year. Running back Patrick Taylor for the 49ers. I have him and Keyshawn Vaughn, Dave. Funny how these guys get picked off scrap heats, and now they might be like the most important running back in these games. The Rams have a poor run defense, so one of these guys is getting some yards. I think they both split carries, really. I
like Patrick Taylor, actually, because Patrick Taylor came in and scored a touchdown this past week, so I like him, actually, over Keyshawn Vaughn, actually. And he's been on their practice squad longer as well.
I agree with that. Running back Tank Bigsby was hot last week, and, he kind of finally came back. It's like the Jaguars. If you run the ball good, you can play with a lot of these other scrub teams. You're playing the scrub Jets this week. Running back Sincere McCormick. Man, I've been waiting for that guy to shine. It was one of my sleepers in the draft, and he was completely forgotten about for a couple of years in the NFL. He played for UTSA, and now he's kind of like the featured back in the Raiders. He took the job.
He's looking good, actually.
Yeah. He took the job from a few guys there. I know that White was injured, but sometimes injury just breeds opportunity, and he's going to be a part of this offense now, I believe, here on out. Running back Kendry Miller for the Saints got some action, so I think maybe you want to pick up Kendry Miller because you don't have that Taysom Hill angle anymore. Wide receiver Ray McLeod was big for the Falcons. They were kind of in catch-up mode, though. I will mention that Joshua Palmer was big for the Chargers, and running back we can't forget about him. 2 weeks ago, Chris Rodriguez was really big for the Commanders, so. It could be speculative. I know Robinson is probably going to play, but he's not completely healthy either. So,
yeah.
And Rodriguez just had 2 touchdowns last game, so that was interesting. So, Dave, any other waivers?
I had Sincere McCormick as well. I like them, like you said, he had 14 carries for 66 scrimmage yards. Madison's still out too with the ankle injury, so I don't think he's coming back this week. And then White's still out with the quadriceps, so. I don't think he's coming back. I had Tank Bigsby as well. Isaiah Davis, actually, for the Jets, actually looked pretty good. With Breece Hall out, him and Braylon Allen are both nice pickups. Both of them kind of split carries pretty evenly. Those guys are both nice speculative ads. Jerome Ford actually is still getting quite a few carries for the Browns. He's actually a nice person to pick up then too. Snap rate, he was at 66% over their past 2 weeks. So he's actually been getting quite a few snaps. Him and Chubb have kind of been splitting pretty evenly. I think they're just kind of working back in. The guy I really liked this week, actually, Jalen McMillan for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Young rookie. He was kind of hyped up a little bit at the beginning of this year. Now he's actually starting to come around with Chris Godwin out. They're kind of like leaned on him this last week. 2 touchdowns, actually, this past week. And he looked really good. And he's an up-and-coming third-round pick for the Buccaneers. He played almost 67% of the snaps, actually, this past week. He had 4 catches, 59 yards, and 2 TDs. And he had 7 targets this past week as well. So definitely add him to the list. Quentin Johnson actually had a big week this past week, too, with Vlad out. So that was another injury we didn't talk about, but he didn't play this past week. Vlad was a scratch with the knee-shoulder injuries. And then another one, too, is Kenneth Walker, we forgot to mention as well. He was out with a quad injury as well, so hopefully he'll be back this week. Keep an eye on that situation. Zach Cabernet, definitely pick him up. He had a huge week this past week. He could be a league winner if Kenneth Walker is out again this week, and he could help you go on to the next round of the playoffs if he does play this week.
I assume most people own Charbonnet, but yeah, I mean, he's the handcuff for Walker for sure. So if he's out there, grab him for sure. He's been great. And Seattle's been really playing high. I think this might be their kind of fall asleep week against the Packers, so we'll see. Packers need this one. They have more rest.
Oh, another one. Yeah, definitely. And then Juwan Johnson, another guy, too. He actually, now Taysom Hill, he actually looked pretty good this past week. I think we mentioned him last week as well, but he had a solid week, actually. Even without Derek Carr in there, he was looking pretty good. So keep him in mind for this week as well.
Yeah, if he's still out there. We mentioned him last week, but yeah, if he's still out there for sure. Let's go to sleepers. Anyone trending up for this week that's a non-starter? Wide receiver Luke McCaffrey for the Saints could be nice. You know, I think I mean the Washington Commanders, I meant to say, because Commanders are still a little bit banged up with Noah Brown. We don't know if Noah Brown's going to come back. We mentioned his injury last week, but they're coming off the bye. Yeah, he's versed the Saints. And the Saints, what's funny is they traded Lattimore to the Commanders, so I found that an interesting little thing for this game. Rico Dowdle, he's already having a decent game for the Cowboys tonight. And, he's going to be great with the Panthers matchup. So you got to love that matchup next week against the Panthers. Running back Justice Hill versus the Giants. I think he's going to get the second half garbagey time. And Justice Hill could score a couple tutties as well as get some receptions for you. So that's going to be a good PPR move. Quarterback Sam Darnold against the Bears. And we've said Sam Darnold so much. And, dude, he's probably a starter.
He's a starter right now. He had like 5 touchdowns this past week. He's a starter.
Well, here's another thing, Dave. I mean, anyone that picked up Sam Darnold didn't put him as a starter. So you might have drafted like a Lamar Jackson and then put in Sam Darnold. I know you want to start Lamar this week, but if it's like a Patrick Mahomes and you have Sam Darnold against the Bears, with the way Patrick Mahomes has not been scoring, I'm afraid that I'm starting Sam Darnold over Pat Mahomes, Dave.
I know you almost have to. Like, the good matchup. You got to look at matchups this week.
Yeah. I agree. To win this freaking league is what you're trying to do. It's the playoffs. It's time. And, any real league's going to have it. Even the people that don't make the playoffs can play for the first draft pick next year. I think that's the way to do it. Malik Neighbors should do okay versus the Ravens. I think they're going to be in catch-up mode, but I can see him scoring a touchdown or getting some yards. Running back Kendry Miller against the Commanders is kind of interesting, too, because I think the Saints will have to just run the ball the whole time. If they don't, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Believe it or not, drama queen Aaron Rodgers, Dave. He's on my sleepers this week because he's playing the Jaguars. And I don't know what we saw from the Jaguars last week, but it was the Titans, so I'm not really putting too much stock into it. This is probably a slump buster game for good old Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he'll take some shrooms afterwards or something, or some peyote. Maybe cover himself in a dark room for like 50 hours or something. Whatever it takes. But he might be the guy to play this week. Quarterback Justin Herbert against the Bucs. I think that's going to be huge, and the defense of Washington. I like the Washington defense against the Saints without Derek Carr. I think the Washington defense is good to pick up in a week like this, Dave.
I like him. No, yeah, I do like Sam Darnold. Like this week against the Bears, I definitely agree with you that he is a starter though. I think, and same with Aaron Jones. I think I like those matchups, but they're definitely both starters already. Actually, Kirk Cousins, this might be the get right game for him. They said he's going to start this week. They're playing the Raiders. Raiders really don't have a quarterback. They're going to be trying to play catch up mode, I think, because the Falcons, I think, are going to shred that poor Raiders D. I'm saying Kirk Cousins. I like Kirk Cousins this week. Tyler Algier too as well. He's been scoring touchdowns in his last couple of weeks. I like him as a sleeper this week too. I like both of them. I like Gus Edwards against that Tampa Bay, even though their pass defense is horrible for Tampa Bay. The defense as a whole, Gus Edwards is actually the main guy there now with Dobbins out. I like Edwards this week too as well. I know you said Justin. I do like Justin too as well, but I like Gus Edwards too. He actually looked pretty good last past week, and he's definitely going to get more carries going forward. So I like that matchup. I do like Bo Nix this week against the Colts. The Colts and Broncos have been looking good. He had to drop that dime last week to Mims, that 93-yarder. That was just a ridiculous pass. The more I watch him, the more I like him, actually. Bo Nix, I like him this week. And then a couple other guys. And then actually, the running backs for the Rams, I like Blake Corum, and I like whoever is starting for the 49ers. Hopefully, Isaac Guerrero is back. If not, I like Patrick Taylor, though. So I do like that matchup for him. I like both the running backs in that game. I think they could score some points. I like Rico as well for the Dallas. I like that one. That was a good call. I actually like Aaron Rodgers. I like A-Rod as well. But I think I like Mac Jones. The Jets defense hasn't really stopped anyone all year. I think Mac Jones could actually have a solid day as well. Brian Thomas Jr., he's actually our starter already. But I like Tank Bisbee and I like Mac Jones. I don't think the Jets defense is that good. They're 3-10, so that tells you something right there.
Return of the Mac. Return of the Mac, baby.
Exactly. Return of the Mac, baby. I think he has a good week this week. Jets defense hasn't proven anything this whole year. So that's a good matchup. I like that matchup. I like the Justin Hill pick, too. I like Rashad Bateman, actually, this week against the Giants, too, as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great calls. I like a lot of those, too. And I added a few of those to my article, Dave. So great call. Moving on to bust, Dave. Who do you have for your big bust this week?
A couple of the busts. I don't like the Philly matchup against. I don't like Antonio Brown this week against the Steelers. That's tough. Saquon Barkley's still a must start, but he could struggle a little bit against that tough Steelers D. That he doesn't have his normal 150, 175 yard game.
AJ Brown. Antonio Brown's in some mental ward. AJ Brown is.
Oh, I meant AJ Brown. Sorry, AJ Brown. But yeah, so A.J. Brown, I think, struggles a little bit against the tough Steelers D. I think Barkley is still a must start, but I think he struggles a little bit against that tough Steelers D. So I don't like that matchup. I don't like Jared. Josh Allen, I think, struggles a little bit against the Lions, even though he's MVP worthy and he's my animal of the week here. I think he struggles a little bit against that Lions D, even though they're a little bit banged up, though. I like Josh Allen. I take that back. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with James Cook, actually. I think he struggles a little bit against the Lions D. The run defense is actually pretty good, so I'm going to say James Cook is going to struggle a little bit this week against that tough D. And then the other one I don't like the Browns actually this week against KC. Even though they're playing at Cleveland, I think KC's defense is one of the top 10 defenses right now. So I'm going to say Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford, who I talked about before. I think they struggle a little bit against the Chiefs' tough D this week.
All right. No, good stuff. I like, AJ Brown for sure is a dangerous one, and you throw Russell Wilson in there as well.
Yep,
I don't love Russell Wilson in playing catch-up mode either. He's thrown a lot of picks in that situation. It feels like they might be in catch-up mode. I do think the Steelers D can possibly shut down the Eagles some. So this still could be a 3-point game in my opinion. I just don't know what to think about this game. Running back DeAndre Swift against the Vikings is rough. I don't like him. I don't like Jonathan Taylor against the Broncos either, Dave. I think he's suspect now.
No, I agree.
Too bad what happened to Jonathan Taylor. He was such a number one guy for a couple of years, and the injuries got there, and then he has no offensive line either. So real sad about our former Badger.
Quarterback. He doesn't really have a quarterback either.
Tyron Tracy against the Ravens. I wouldn't really want to start him either. Nick Chubb against the Chiefs is bad. I don't like T. Higgins against the Titans. I don't like the Bears D. I think the Bears D has worn their welcome out now, and you ain't going to score many points with them. They're toast. I'm kind of hoping they lose out so they can at least get a draft pick. See, the draft is for losing teams, and that's why this is always good for the Bears. It's like, who we drafted? That's when they don't trade their number one pick for some idiot. That's so. That's
I gotta say, those 4 yards in 1/2, that was just brutal. That was the worst primetime game they could have had on for the afternoon game ever. That was the worst game ever to watch.
so bad. And I watched I was stuck watching the whole thing at a friend's house that's a Bears fan too. And I'll tell you, it was laughable. We started playing like games with the kids, like gambling games. It was funny. It was his game, not mine. Nasty sleeper time, Dave. And I'll go first because I already mentioned a couple of these players, but I'm going with Quentin Johnson against the Buccaneers. You know, Tampa, they just lost Antoine Winfield now. Their safeties are down to complete scrubs. You know, scrubs.
Yeah, their secondary is just toast.
It's so bad. I mean, it's going to be when they play any competent offense, they are really going to get scored upon, you know. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to capitalize on that. I think that he's going to have a monster game, especially if Ladd McConkey's still out. I'll be looking at those props. But, yeah, Tampa lost everybody this year, and I was just pulling up their secondary right now. They lost Mike Edwards at strong safety. Jordan Whitehead is on IR, and now Antoine Winfield. I mean, they got like Kavion Merriweather, just dudes that you don't even hear about. You also have to remember they also lost cornerbacks Bryce Hall and Troy Hill this year. Josh Hayes, another left corner. They don't have anybody. This is a really beat up Bucs team, Dave.
This is like a practice squad starting secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Chargers or nothing for me when I'm looking, but man, I would take I like the Quentin Johnson this week a lot. Who's your sleeper?
Well, we talked about him here briefly too. I have two of them I really like actually. So I'm actually giving a bonus one since it's playoff time. I'm giving two D-Nasty sleepers this week. I'm going to give a bonus one. I'm going with Rico Dowell against the Panthers, who I really like. And I'm going with A-Rod, even though he's not one of my favorite players anymore, and he's not a very likable player anymore. It's such a diva, but I'm actually have to go with A-Rod too against the Jaguars. Two good matchups, and I think those two people could be league winners and playoff winners for you this week. Those are my D-Nasty this week.
Psycho A-Rod. Cooper Rush pass to Brandon Cooks for a touchdown. All right, well, hey, I love how you went back to good old A-Rod, but man, I'd still be nervous starting him. I know he's on my sleeper list too, but this is like a situation if you have like, you know, one of those quarterbacks, maybe you had Derek Carr, he's out. Maybe you have a bad matchup this week. I'm not going to say the Ravens because the Ravens are playing the Giants and you're not starting any of the Giants quarterbacks, but you know, there's a chance that you need him. So that's Aaron Rodgers could be your sleeper winner this week. So I agree with that, Dave. Anything else we missed?
No. Good luck everyone in the playoffs this week. And hopefully you move on to the next round.
That's right. Good luck in your playoffs. And commissioners out there, remember to reset your bottom six or bottom four or whatever you have so they face each other to play for the first round draft pick. And 1 through 4, 1 through 6 for next year. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Oddsbreakers. If you have any questions for us, feel free to tweet us at The Oddsbreakers. Email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Have a great rest of your week and go get some winners.